On behalf of the SCSTE, I would like to welcome all viewers and especially our dear students to this online class. And I hope that you will gain a lot of benefit from this online class. And today in this class, we'll be doing a new chapter from physics, and the chapter is chapter 2, and the name of the chapter is The Human Eye and the Colourful World. Let's begin. So on the previous chapter, we have already learned about the phenomena like reflection and refraction, right? So now in this chapter, we will learn how the basic ideas which we have learned in the previous chapter will help us to understand how the human eye works properly. Alright, so now I've already drawn a diagram which shows the external part of the eye. Alright, this is the shape of the human eye. It is almost spherical in shape, alright, except if we leave out this part and this part. Alright, so this is the shape of the human eye. And now I will just draw and mention the different parts of the human eye, alright, and then later on I will explain to you the functions of those parts, alright. So now let's begin. First of all, we have the outermost layer, alright, and this is that layer. This is the outermost layer of the eye, and this layer is called the sclera or the sclerotic. Let me just mention here. This layer is called the sclera, or sometimes it is also called sclerotic. Alright, this is the outermost layer. I will explain to you its function later on. Now, from this portion till this portion, this part is called the cornea. Alright, then we have another layer of the eye. Alright, and this layer, alright, the second layer is called the choroid. Alright, let me just mention here. This layer is called the choroid. Now, this part here, this is the ciliary body. This is called the ciliary body. And in the ciliary body, we have ciliary muscles, alright? Ciliary body, let me just mention that also. Ciliary body and ciliary muscles. Alright, now this portion, this part, and this part, this is called the iris. Alright, and this hole, alright, or this gap between the iris, this is called the pupil. Alright, so next we'll look at the other layer, which is called the retina. This is only the visual part of the retina, alright? But the retina also extends to here. But this is the non-visual part of the retina, alright? Only up to here, alright, we have the visual part of the retina, alright, up to here. And this part, this is the non-visual part. Which means that when light rays, alright, coming from objects, alright, when they form, suppose on this part, then the object cannot be seen because this is the non-visual part, alright. But when it falls on any of this region, alright, till here, the image can be seen. Alright, so let me just mention here, this is the retina. So next we will look at crystalline lens. So this is the crystalline lens. Let me just mention, this is the crystalline lens, and these fibers, alright, these are called the suspensory ligaments. Suspensory ligaments. And next we have the, I forgot to mention here, there is a small part, alright, in the retina which is raised a little higher, alright, from the other parts. It's like this. And this part, alright, is called the yellow spot. Alright, so this part is called the yellow spot. Alright, and this here, in this region of the retina, this is called the blind spot. This is the blind spot. And here we have a nerve which is called the optic nerve. This is the optic nerve, alright, from here up to here. This is the optic nerve. Optic nerve. And so, this is the crystalline lens. These are the suspensory ligaments. And next, this part of the eye, which lies at the posterior end or at the back of the crystalline lens, this part is called the vitreous humor. So let me just mention here itself so that it will be clear to you. This is the vitreous humor. Alright. And this part also, which lies at the anterior end or at the front side of the crystalline lens, this is called the aqueous humor. So, let me just mention serially in number, right? We have the sclera or the sclerotic, which is the first one, and then we have the cornea, the second one, and then we have the choroid, the third one, and then the optic nerve. So we also have the retina, the fifth one. We have the retina, and then the yellow spot, 6th, blind spot 7, and then we have the iris, number 8, and then we have the ciliary body and ciliary muscles, which is number 9, and then we have the crystalline lens, which is number 10. So let me make crystalline lens number 9 so that when I explain to you it will be more clear. Number 9, number 10, 11 we have the vitreous humor, and then the last one we have the aqueous humor. So these are the different parts of the human eye. Alright, now I will explain to you their functions. Alright, so first of all we have the sclera or the sclerotic. as I said before, this is the outermost covering of the eye, alright? Its function is to protect the internal parts of the eye, alright? This sclera, alright, is to protect the internal parts of the eye, especially the retina, because the retina is a delicate membrane, which means it is a membrane which is easily affected or damaged, alright? So that's why the sclera is covered from the outside and it protects these internal parts of the eye. So that's the function of the sclera or the sclerotic. Now let's look at the second one, which is the cornea. This portion of the eye which is bent outwards, alright, this is called the cornea. And the function of the cornea is to allow light, alright, is to allow light rays, alright, which are coming from an object, alright, and then the cornea allows those light rays to enter the eye, alright. So that's the function of the cornea, alright. But remember, the cornea also refracts the light rays, which means the cornea bends the light rays, alright. It just doesn't allow the light rays to pass through simply like this, but when the light rays enters the cornea refracts the light rays. So it means that it bends the light rays, alright. Refraction is the bending of light. Reflection is just the bouncing back of light into the same medium, alright. So let's move on to the next one. The third one is the choroid. Now, the choroid is a grey membrane, or it is a grey covering, alright, which darkens the light from the inside, darkens the eye. The choroid is a grey membrane which darkens the eye from the inside, and its function is to prevent any internal reflection inside the eye. Alright, so when light rays, alright, falls on the eye, and when it hits the choroid, alright, the light rays, alright, are absorbed by the choroid, which is this layer, alright. This layer is the choroid. The light rays absorb the choroid absorb the light rays, and hence it prevents any internal reflection in the eye. Alright, so because when the light rays, suppose it enters the eye from the cornea, and suppose if there is no such membrane such as the choroid, then it may be reflected, alright, in different parts of the eye. So that will cause us a problem in forming the image, alright. So to prevent the internal reflection inside the eye, the choroid absorbs the light rays from entering from the cornea, alright. So let's look at the fourth one, which is the optic nerve. Now this is the optic nerve. The optic nerve is just a collection of many nerves, alright, approximately 70,000 nerves, alright. And these nerves, alright, they are used to carry optical messages to the brain, alright, which means that when an image is formed on the retina, suppose this image is formed on the retina, remember there are many nerves, alright, in this optic nerve. The optic nerve is just a collection of other nerves, alright. So when we have many other nerves which are attached to the retina, so when an image is formed on the retina, alright, this image is converted into electrical signals, alright, and these optic nerves help to carry those signals into the brain, and so we can see a clear image of the object, alright. So that's the function of the optic nerve. Now let's look at the retina. Now the retina, as I have said earlier also, it is a highly delicate membrane, alright, or highly affected, or it is easily damaged, alright. And in this retina we have a large number of light sensitive cells, alright. So these light sensitive cells, they convert the image, alright. As I said earlier, when an image is formed, when the light rays, alright, falls on this portion, suppose on this part of the retina, because they are refracted by the crystalline lens and the cornea. So when it falls on this part, suppose, of the retina, those light sensitive cells which are present inside the retina, they get converted into electrical signals, alright. Those light sensitive cells helps to convert the image formed on the retina into electrical signals, and these signals, alright, are sent by the optic nerve to the brain, alright. So that's the function of the retina. So on the retina we have a slightly raised region or portion, alright, which is called the yellow spot. This is the yellow spot, and the function of the yellow spot is almost the same as the function of the retina, because the retina's function is to help to form an image, alright, on it, and then to convert those images into electrical signals, and then send those electrical signals through the optic nerve. The yellow spot also helps to form an image, alright. But the difference is only that when we want to see an object, alright, in a very clear way, alright, or a very clear image of the object, then the light rays coming from the object, alright, suppose the light rays coming from the object are refracted at this spot, and when they are refracted at this spot, we can see the image of very clear, alright, we can see a very clear image. When an object, alright, when the image of an object is formed anywhere on the retina except the yellow spot, we can also see that image to be clear. But when it falls on the yellow spot, we can see it as very clear image. Alright, so that's the function of the yellow spot. Now we have the blind spot. The blind spot is just the region. This is the region where the optic nerve gets attached to the retina. Alright, so, but the blind spot, in fact, it has no function at all. Alright, so let's move on to the next part, which is the iris. Now the iris is a flat and ring-shaped membrane, alright, and it has a circular opening or a circular hole in the middle, alright, which can be increased or which can be decreased, alright, and the iris can do that because of the presence of small nerves or small muscles inside this membrane, alright. So if we look from this angle, it is very difficult to visualize such, because I'm saying that the iris is a circular and flat-shaped membrane, but actually if we look at this angle, we cannot see the iris as such a membrane, alright? So let me just draw another portion. Suppose if we look at the eye in this angle, alright, so this is the iris, alright? So it's a circular, alright, flat and ring-shaped membrane. It's like a ring because here we have a hole, alright? And this hole is called the pupil. Alright, this is the iris. The whole thing is the iris. But this hole here inside is called the pupil. Alright, so remember to shade the whole thing. This whole thing is the pupil, this part. And so in the iris, in this membrane, we have small muscles, alright? And these muscles help in contracting or expanding the size of the pupil, alright? Because so that when light falls, alright, from an object, when we want to make the light enter or fall on the retina, only a small portion, then it will contract. And if the eye, alright, wants to have a large portion of light rays falling from an object to fall on the retina, then it will expand the size of the pupil. Alright, so these muscles help in contracting or expanding the size of the pupil. So that's the function of the iris. And now we have the next one, which is the crystalline lens. Now the crystalline lens, it is a double convex lens. Alright, so you have studied about lenses in the previous chapter. So the crystalline lens is a double convex lens. And this lens, alright, its function is similar to the cornea, because this lens also helps to refract the light or bend the light coming from objects, alright, to focus on the retina. Alright, so that's the function of the crystalline lens. And next we have the ciliary body and the ciliary muscles. So this portion is the ciliary body, alright, and in this ciliary body we have ciliary muscles. Alright. So what is the function of these ciliary muscles? The function of these ciliary muscles is to hold the crystalline lens in position. Alright. Along with the help of these suspensory ligaments. Alright. So that's the function of the ciliary muscles. And also these ciliary muscles can help to adjust the focal length of the crystalline lens, so that we want to have a clear image to be formed on the retina. Alright, so that's the function of the ciliary muscles. So next, let's move on to the next part, which is the vitreous humor. Now the vitreous humor is a dense fluid which is like jelly, alright, and it fills the posterior part of the eye. Alright, this is the posterior part, or I should say the back part of the eye. Alright, this whole thing, right? This is the vitreous humor. Alright, it is like a jelly, and it has two functions. The first function is to prevent the eye from collapsing. due to the changes in the atmospheric pressure. Alright. And the second function of the vitreous humor is that it also helps to bend or refract the light to be focused on the retina. But that function, it takes part only a little bit, because most of that function is taken care by the cornea and the crystalline lens. Alright. So that's the function of the vitreous humor. And next we have the aqueous humor. It is a watery liquid, alright, which contains some salt also, or it is salty or saline, alright, which we call. So, and the aqueous humor is a watery liquid which fills the anterior part of the eye, or which fills the front part of the eye, this part. So this whole front part of the eye is filled by the aqueous humor. It also has two functions. The first function is the same as the vitreous humor, to protect the front part of the eye from collapsing. Alright, so it's almost the same as the vitreous humor. The vitreous humor prevents the whole eye, alright, from collapsing, and the aqueous humor protects the front part of the eye from collapsing, which is the cornea. Alright, so the next function of the aqueous humor, is to keep the cornea moist. Alright. This cornea, alright, is kept moist due to the presence of the aqueous humor. When we blink or when we wink our eyes, alright, a small liquid, alright, is secreted from this side of the eye, alright. A small liquid is secreted from the side of the eye, and that liquid helps in keeping the cornea moist, alright. So those are the different parts and the different functions of the human eye. So now let us see how an image is formed. Alright, what happens when light rays falling from objects, alright, enters the eye. Alright, so now let's see that. So let me just rub off this whole thing. So now we will see how an image is formed when light rays falling from an object enters the eye. Alright, so suppose an object is placed here, alright, and when a source of light hits that object, alright, and gets reflected, alright, suppose the light rays are coming from that object. So, suppose that these are the light rays, alright, coming from an object. So when these light rays enters the cornea, remember the function of the cornea is to bend the light rays or to refract the light rays, alright. So it will refract these light rays, alright, or it will bend these light rays. Next, it enters the crystalline lens. Alright, and the function of the crystalline lens also is to refract. Alright, so it will refract again these light rays, alright. So, when light rays coming from an object enters the cornea, those light rays are refracted by the cornea, and then those light rays are further refracted by the crystalline lens, and then those light rays are focused on the retina. Alright, now we know that the retina has a large number of light sensitive cells, and so those light sensitive cells present in the retina, alright, convert that image which is formed on this retina into electrical signals, and those electrical signals are sent by the optic nerve to the brain, and hence we have a clear image of the brain. So that is the function, all right, of the cornea of the crystalline lens, all right. And so that's all about the different functions, different parts and different functions of the human eye. And so with this we come to end of this class, and in the next class we'll be doing a new topic, and until then stay safe. Thank you.